What's up YouTube? I'm Matt McAdam, and today on Chasing Dust we're talking about the 5 biggest mistakes that off-roaders make and how you can avoid them. Don't go anywhere. What is up, you guys? Matt McAdam here, aka Desert Chief, with another episode of Chasing Dust, only on Driving Line, and that's not the way I'm supposed to be going. Oh man, and what a beautiful day it is out here in the Mojave Desert. I'm running the Mojave Road right now, down into the Colorado River Valley. I actually left Vegas this morning. I was at the Mint 400 off-road race, and I was heading towards Havasu thinking maybe I'd hit a little bit of dirt on the way down there. So I took the Ranger out today. We're just running the last 20-mile section of the Mojave Road, which is, of course, 127 miles in total. Just gonna run a portion of it today. And I figured this is a good spot to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that off-roaders make and how you can avoid them. So without too much further ado, I'm gonna get into these mistakes and show you how I'm actually making one of those mistakes right here, right now. All right, so let's just jump right into it. We're gonna start with number 1. Do not go off-roading alone. There is a whole list of things that can go wrong when you go do a trail. You can break down, you can run out of gas, you can have a medical emergency, you can have a flat tire, you can have something go wrong where you're actually able to fix it, but if you don't have another set of hands with you, you can't fix it alone. The list just goes on. There's so many things that can go wrong when you're off-roading, and if you're by yourself, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. Now, today, I know I'm out here by myself. I know this section of the trail very well. I've done the Mojave Road dozens of times, and this is only a short 20-mile section with plenty of cell phone coverage, and I have a lot of backup plans put in place in case something were to go wrong within the hour or so that I'm actually off the pavement. So this isn't quite what I'm talking about. I mean, I totally get it. I love the whole solo adventure vibe. I used to do it a lot, but you know what? Just the risk that you're taking by doing that all by yourself without having another vehicle to be able to run into town and get some parts, or maybe help you get your own vehicle out of a situation where you might be stuck, or if somebody gets injured or gets sick or something happens and you have to get out there faster and you don't have a vehicle that's ready to get out there, you're broken down, whatever it is, there's so many scenarios that can take place that can really become a minor problem if there's just another vehicle with you. I would say at the very least, have another person inside the vehicle, but even then, I don't think that that's a great plan to rely on. Plus, for me, really, the attraction of off-roading and wheeling is really going out with my friends and having a good time. It's not so much fun for me to be out here by myself. I'm just doing this section of road because I was driving through this area and I figured it'd be a cool spot to make this video. So otherwise, I wouldn't really be out here alone. I've never done the Mojave Road by myself before, and I can't imagine it being a very good time anyway. All right, and that brings us to number 2 on our list of the biggest mistakes that off-roaders make, and that is failing to prep. Now, what do I mean by failing to prep? Well, there's many ways you can prepare for an off-road trip. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do, and I do this before every single trip, whether it's just for a half a day going out, or if it's for a day or two, or even a week or more. It's really the same amount of preparation that I take for every trip, and this is going to severely mitigate any risk of things happening to you, or make sure that you at least have a backup plan in case things go wrong. The first thing on my checklist is an itinerary. I usually build out my trail rides, whether it's on Onyx or if it's on Google Maps or some sort of a mapping device or system that I'm able to show somebody else who's not going to be on this trip with me exactly where I'm going, where I plan to camp, where I plan to enter the dirt, where I plan to exit the trail, whatever it may be. Just give them a breakdown and an idea of where you're going to go. Now, you're not always going to adhere to those plans. Things happen, you run behind, you found a better campsite than you thought you were going to be at. That's okay, but as long as somebody has a general idea of where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, and when you should be back in contact with them, so that they know that they don't have to call out a search party right away. They know exactly, like, hey, if you don't hear from me in 48 hours from this time, start looking. You know, that sort of preparation and planning is extremely important. I like to build these itineraries out, whether it's on Google Maps or Onyx off-road app, and I give them to my dad, who actually, he's an off-road adventurer as well. He does the motorcycle stuff, so he kind of has an idea of where I'm going in all these places, and he knows how to contact me. Another way I like to prepare for these trips is by having a backup plan, and I like to carry this Spot X with me right here. I can show you guys so you can see it. This is basically an emergency communicator. This is the Jeep edition. I know I drive a Ford, that's okay. And basically this is a backup in case something really goes wrong. This is a satellite communicator that allows you to send text messages to people that you've predefined inside of this. Now, there's a monthly subscription charge for the Spot X. There's a few other different companies that make this stuff, things that are similar to this. You can get a satellite phone. You know, if most places I go wheeling, my phone doesn't work. So satellite communication is a must everywhere I go, and I keep that in my truck anytime I go off-roading, just in case something goes wrong and I can't get a hold of somebody else and I can't get something fixed. Or just to let people know that, hey, I'm doing okay. You know, I'm doing fine. I'm going to be here tomorrow. This is where I'm going to be at. So if you don't hear from me then, you know, then ping in and check with me. So each one of these devices has its own phone number, and they know that when they get a text from that phone number, that's my emergency line. Of course, a part of that preparation is also making sure I have the right gear with me. I like to carry enough food and water for myself as well as any of my passengers with me. I need to carry enough gas, make sure my fuel tank can hold enough fuel for the trail that I'm driving on. These are all part of the preparation stuff that people take for granted. I've got about 100 pounds of just tools in here and about 200 pounds of recovery gear, a full-size spare tire, and everything necessary, even a first aid kit right here, extra straps, you know, like this toe strap right here, gloves. These are all things that I carry with me on all my trips and basically anywhere I go with this truck, because you just never know when you're going to need it. And oftentimes they come in handy when somebody else breaks as well. So you're not just doing it for yourself, but if you have a friend out here, like you should, and they have something go wrong, you have everything you need to fix it, and that way you guys can keep going down the trail. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about the second point here is in terms of preparation, you literally should prep your truck. Now, this is something I'm definitely guilty of not doing. I like to kind of just hop into this thing and just go out and drive it around, but really just making sure you have a couple eyes on your bolts and your suspension, your brakes, steering, you know, all the main components of your vehicle, or even like your roof rack and things up top, making sure everything is just cinched down tight, because a lot of this stuff tends to sometimes rattle loose when you're driving on a lot of dirt roads that are bumpy. You know, they tend to just rattle their way off of things. And if they come off somewhere on the trail, it's really not an opportune time to make a repair like that when you don't have extra hardware and you don't have a nice flat surface to work on. So make sure you prep your vehicle just as much as you prep yourself and all your family and friends at home who know where you're at. All right, so the next one on our list of the 5 biggest mistakes you make when you're off-roading is about tire pressure. Now, notice I didn't say not airing down. That's not what I mean. That's not a mistake. It's really just knowing what is the right tire pressure for the trail that you're running. I hear this from all different kinds of people on YouTube. Always air down when you're off-road. Always air down when you're off-road. You always want to air down to this. This is what I air down to. You guys, it doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for every trail. It doesn't work for every rig. There's no magic number to air down to. I'm telling you now, anybody who's telling you that you should air down your tires to this PSI to do this trail is just full of it. There's no way that anybody can give you a defined number for your tire size, your tire type, the weight of your vehicle, your driving style, and then the actual terrain that you're driving on. Those variables will change the PSI that you should run on the trail in every way possible. And there's no way that one person knows what that is for every trail. You just really have to know your vehicle and know the terrain that you're driving on. So I'm gonna give you a little example of what I'm doing out here on the Mojave Road. Now on this truck, I have a 35 1250 18 Nitto Recon Grappler. This is an all-terrain tire. It's situated right in between like a mild all-terrain and like a hybrid terrain. So it's a little bit more aggressive of an all-terrain. It does very well on all kinds of dirt roads like we have out here in the desert, but I've also had it in snow. I've also had it in mud. I've had it on the rocks. It does very well for all of my needs and the types of trails that I do. Now for me, I've done a lot of off-roading in the desert. I've done a lot of off-roading in all different types of environments, and I run 35 pounds of pressure in my tires when I'm on the street. That seems to give me the best drivability, the best gas mileage. It's nice and firm on the road. I don't have any, you know, weird steering issues. 35 is the magic number for these tires for this size on this truck. So maybe that's the same case for you. Sometimes people go 32, some people go 40. It just depends on your vehicle. 35 seems to work for this truck. Now, after speaking with a lot of off-road racers, speaking with a lot of people who have a lot more experience off-roading than I do, a lot of them, a lot more than you think, are running full 35 pounds of street pressure when they're on trails like the one I'm doing today. I don't need to go rock crawling today. I don't need to go in through sand today. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm not driving over really, really bad chatter bumps or anything like that. It's just kind of a mild, you know, fire road that I'm driving on. And there's no point in me airing down. The truck suspension is dialed in very well, so I don't have to worry about the comfort inside the cab. I don't have to worry about needing more contact because I have four-wheel drive and I'm using it out here. There's just no need for me to have to air down. Now, if I was doing a rock crawling trail, if I was somewhere like the Rubicon and I was in a Jeep or something, yes, I would be airing way down to like 10 or 12 PSI, or if I had beadlocks, even lower than that. However, these street wheels out here in the desert, there's no need to air down. There's no need to air down for me. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't air down. What I'm saying is you should take inventory of what your vehicle does best and then kind of formulate your own strategy when it comes to tire pressure, depending on the trail that you're driving on, the weather conditions, and how aggressively you drive and how you like to feel your vehicle contacting the surface that it's driving on. So the biggest mistake people make is they just air down for everything. And really, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good in a lot of places. It makes your vehicle slower, it makes it more sluggish, you lose gas mileage. Sometimes the tire is bulging so much that you will actually lose your bead. You'll actually pop the bead off of the wheel, and then you're dealing with a whole nother mess of issues that you wouldn't have had to deal with if you just had a little bit more pressure in your tires. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is you don't always have to air down, and people who tell you otherwise are full of it. Fourth biggest mistake people make when they're going off-roading: driving beyond their limits. Now, I'm talking about your personal limits as a driver and the limits of your vehicle. Two different things, but both of them are important to understand. A lot of people go out there and they buy a vehicle that's built for off-road use, whether that's an OEM vehicle that is like a Ford Raptor, let's take for instance, or a Jeep Rubicon, or a TRD Pro. And they just think the thing is a freaking trophy truck, and they go drive it like it's a trophy truck. Guys, that is not the case, okay? I see it all the time, and the results from that are really bad. It's usually people who get stuck, or they roll off the side of a cliff, or they break their vehicles because they're not paying attention to how fast they're going into a whoop section, or they go into a G out or something, or they think that they have more flex than they really do, and they start to teeter and totter and sometimes go over. The results can really be devastating to yourself and your vehicle, and it's just so avoidable if you just know the limits of your vehicle and know the limits of yourself as a driver. So I can't teach you that. I can't teach you the limits of your own vehicle. You have to really go out there and test the limits of your vehicle and really just see what's safe and what's a little bit beyond safe, and then what is just absolutely reckless. And then you have to take inventory of that and figure out how you should be driving your vehicle given the terrain and the situation that you're in. One thing I will tell you is that you cannot buy talent. It doesn't matter how much money you got or how good your credit score is. Doesn't matter how nice of a vehicle you've got or how many modifications you put into it or how many thousands of dollars in parts you've got on it. It is going to come down to you as a driver, your experience in off-road driving, to be able to allow you to drive to a certain level. So don't just hop into something that's really built well and think you can just put your foot to the floor and go do whatever you want to do, because I promise you it's not going to end well. Okay, and the last item on our list of the 5 biggest mistakes off-roaders make and how you can avoid them is going off the trail. Now, this is a topic that's really sensitive in my eyes. It's something that I've been working for a long time to try to mitigate within our community. But because this community is growing at such a rapid rate, and there's so many new people and different kinds of enthusiasts and people who have never really been off-roaders that are coming into this community, I feel like there's a little bit of a gap between those of us who've been doing this for a long time and really understand the tread lightly, way of off-roading, and then those who just got into it. Maybe they got a UTV, maybe they got a new vehicle, whatever it may be. You guys, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. You need to stay on the trail. Unless you're in an OHV, off-highway vehicle area, and you're actually in a place where there is open riding that is allowed in this area, like for instance, Ocotillo Wells, they have an OHV open riding area, you should be on the trail. There's no reason you should be driving up embankments, driving up the tops of hills to get a better view, whatever it might be, doing donuts in, a section of trail that's closed off or you're not supposed to be on. All that stuff really diminishes our sport. It really diminishes our hobby, and it puts all of us in a really bad light, and I'll tell you exactly why. 30 years ago, if you were to do something like that, the consequences are pretty minor. There weren't going to be anybody really out there to catch you doing it. You'd probably get away with it, no problem. But today, when every single person out there has a cell phone and they're shooting videos of you doing all these stunts or going up on places where you shouldn't be at, or driving up to the top of a landmark or a rock or something just to get a picture of your vehicle next to that thing, and you post it online, What is that going to do? That's going to post it for everybody out there to see what you just did. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I'm not talking about just your friends or your followers or whatever it might be. I'm talking about agencies that work for the government, like the BLM, you know, like the Forest Services. All these guys see all this stuff. And what that does is it just gives them a stronger case to close all of our trails. And I've seen this happen time and time again. Areas that we used to love going off-roading, that I grew up going off-roading, completely closed off to vehicle traffic. And it's all because people like to go off-road and tear up the terrain just for an Instagram video or something like that. It is just not conducive to this hobby. And before you know it, we're not gonna have any trails left, and your kids and your grandkids are never gonna be able to enjoy the hobby that you're enjoying today. And that's the biggest fear I have, is that people just don't respect this hobby enough to really care for it and care for the future of off-roading, because they just want to get a quick photo or a video somewhere where they're not supposed to be. I understand it's not always black and white, there's some nuance in there, but generally speaking, you know where you should be driving and where you shouldn't be driving. So just stick to the trail, you guys. It's going to be better off for all of us. And that's really it, you guys. If you guys just take these 5 tips that I laid out in this video, you should be good to go. Don't go off-roading alone. Make sure that you have all your stuff prepped and ready to go. Make sure somebody knows where you're at as well. Make sure that you have the right tire pressure inside your vehicle. Do not drive outside of the limits of your vehicle or yourself as a driver, and then stay on the trail. Those are the 5 biggest mistakes I see people making off-road, and they're so easily avoidable. So I hope this video was a little bit informative for you guys who are newer to the off-road scene, or maybe some of you guys have been doing this for a while and you just need a little bit of a refresher. We always do. But once again, you guys, this is your pal Matt McAdam, aka Desert Chief, only on Driving Lines Chasing Dust, brought to you by Nitto Tire. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm gonna do this a little bit differently this time. Stick this in the ground. Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.